I feel the cool breeze. It's such a lovely tease.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Posca Paint Party Monday. And today we are revisiting the Flower of Life because everybody had so much fun last week. And we got so many emails from people saying that drawing the Flower of Life opened up inspired ideas for them. And it was just so great seeing the art on Instagram. And some of you emailed us. So what you're expanding on it today, Drew, what are you doing exactly?
Yeah, so, it took a little bit for everybody to get the hang of drawing the Flower of Life. And so I thought it was a good time to kind of expand on it and talk about the, fractalization or scaling of the Flower of Life and how that ties into design and composition and just really breaking down something visually and making the difference between painting somebody likes and doesn't like. And there's some fundamental reasons why I think that is. And we're gonna draw them. We're gonna have questions, and I'm gonna try to answer them. I'm gonna show you some stuff and give you some things to look up and things to get excited about that might take your art in a different direction or expand upon it. So we're just here to have fun and hopefully inspire and give you some tools to help your art better.
And for those of you who are new, Drew is happy to answer your questions. Just either hit the raise hand if you want to be spotlight, you want to come on live and show your art, or you can ask a question in the chat and we will get Drew to answer it. This is totally interactive, so we want you to be a part of this.
Yeah, and please in the chat put your name and where you're joining us from.
Yeah, let us know where you are
and
in this world.
We want to thank Posca for supporting us and giving us the power to be able to reach out to everybody. And somebody will be winning that 15 set of 7mm pens, just like every Posca paint party.
Every paint party, we give a set away.
Yeah.
All
right. So here we go. Let me get a little set up here and get the microphone. And for those of you who joined us on Friday, I would really like to thank Jacob from Tunnel Vision and his guests, David and Katie. David plays with Steel Pulse. It was amazing. They hung out with me and played music. And that was very inspirational. And if you were with us Friday, it was all about what inspires you, whether it's nature or music or, for me, it's surfing. And so that was a lot of fun. But to start out, really what I want to kind of get into, if you see all the art that's behind me, is kind of was new for me about 10 years ago. And really, this was a reflection of me studying a lot of physics and just wanting to understand what I was learning. And I was having a lot of fun drawing it and putting it on surfboards. And it wasn't like I was trying to create beautiful things. It was really trying to understand the mechanics of what I was learning. And without going into too much of the science and chemistry and all that kind of stuff, it's just really beautiful. And one of the reasons that I believe, like when I started dissecting my art, after learning about a lot of this geometry and mathematics, was that I was putting things in my art that made it appealing to people. And artists do this naturally because they're picking up on all the subtleties that they see in nature and the beauty. And a really good artist just naturally creates good composition, and people like it. They don't know why they like it, but they like it. Now, if you get it wrong, it can be very well done. It could be technically painted perfectly or drawn perfectly, but the composition be off and people don't like it. So these things really come into play once you start to take notice of positioning and, just a disproportion or just something that's a little bit out of sync. So Maria, do you have some of the the photos that I had sent you.
Yes. Which one? So you want me to bring up the first one?
Well, why don't I talk about the things that are behind me? So the painting behind me, you know, we talked about this last week, is Metatron's cube, which is pulled out of the Flower of Life. And what I was telling people last week is when I understood this this geometry, I didn't believe that you could make this out of the Flower of Life. But so, you know, I did this diagram of geometry out of the Flower of Life because I didn't believe that it was possible. And once I did it, I just thought it was like magic. And then I started doing it on a bunch of other surfboards. So these surfboards behind me here were done with airbrush and little cutout pieces of paper, basically circles. And I was able to create these, and I was just really impressed at how beautiful they were. And then I started using them in my paintings. One of which is, you know, this painting of the sun that I did, and this is overlaid on a geometry, and it just allowed me to do it really cool. And I highlighted these geometry. A lot of times I'll put it behind my paintings and I don't highlight the geometry. I just do the geometry, and then I kind of use that as a tool or a guideline to lay everything out. So, honey, why don't we go to those photos now?
Okay. Bear with me a second. I'm going to share my screen.
So while she's getting that up, let's see if we can. Okay, that's probably the last photo. That's probably number 14. So we need the first photo. They should be in order, 1 through 14. They're not changing.
Okay. I'll try again. Bear with me. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. This is what happens when our tech person isn't here. All right, give me a sec.
Well, I think you're going to have a problem. So why don't you just flip to the screen of my board here? Or here we go. Okay, great. That's something. So this just shows you a good idea of, like, you know, breaking down different flowers. So flowers are very symmetrical, and you see all these beautiful patterns that come out of this. And a lot of these are derived directly from the Flower of Life. And we can, when you scale it, and I'll show you how to do that. And it's not necessarily that you have to do this every time for every painting, but it gives you an insight on how things are constructed in nature so that you know how to draw them and how they should look. And so kind of once you see these like underlying blueprints, it makes it easier for you to create things. And can you see if you can scroll through a few of these?
Yep.
And when I started learning about this, I started learning about guys like Buckminster Fuller. These are some different shapes, the fruit of life, the seed of life. These are all have names. And, you know, these are different constructions. And then you have Metatron's cube in there. Keep going. But these are like exercises, right? So this is really cool. This is an artist that many of you probably already know, but this is MC Escher. And MC Escher has so many amazing paintings and drawings and prints. He's a great person to look up because he really studied a lot of geometry and perspective and was able to utilize these skills to create some amazing drawings. And it's kind of neat when you think of these flat Flower of Life that we're drawing, or some of these geometries, they're actually exercises in 3D composition. So all these things are actually ways in how to make something 3D. and your mind does something, it changes and starts to think of everything in this way. At least it did for me. It kind of unlocked something. Keep going, honey.
Okay.
There should be a picture of MC Escher. Yeah, so there's MC Escher doing a drawing of a spiral. And it's almost like after he was studying these things, his spirals turning things into fish. I don't know if you can see that. So he's known for doing these metamorphoses type of paintings. And I think by studying some of these concepts really unlocked something in his brain that just, you know, he started creating all kind of stuff. So look him up and you'll just melt out on all his art. Let's go just a little bit further. Click, click. Of course, this is a couple pages out of Leonardo da Vinci's sketchbooks, famous sketchbooks. And, you know, he was using this. I'm pretty sure somewhere around the Renaissance, there was a lot of artists and craftsmen that were studying this type of ideas to help them build great architecture, great paintings, and also great music, because it's tied into music as well, including just like mathematics in general, you know. So all of it kind of, this tool kind of helped me marry all those things together. Keep going. You know, and it would take forever to talk about this stuff in depth. This is kind of neat because this is kind of the scaling ratio that I'll be kind of working with today. You know, it's kind of like taking half scales down. So that's what I mean by scaling. And Maria's drawing all over it, or some Dylan?
I don't know. My computer does that. I don't even know why it does.
Maria's technical skills at work. This is an example, you know, just a basic perspective type of drawing. And the whole idea of the flower of life is almost like not just one point perspective, but multiple point perspective. And so anybody who's done one of these perspective exercises, it's kind of something similar to that, but a little bit more complicated. Okay, let's go. Look at, there goes Maria. I think that's somebody else drawing on the screen.
I have no idea what that is. It always does that though.
No, that's somebody else messing. So whoever's hacked in figured out how to do something. That's pretty interesting. But here's that same scaling ratio, but split up into a yin and yang symbol. So when you think of some of these symbols like yin and yang, it's really kind of showing a very concept, a very deep concept of what we're doing. And this one just really kind of shows it, because you see the scaling ratio going down, but you see the yin and yang. All right. I think this is a Raphael painting, just kind of showing that underlying geometry where he put his all his subject matter, and how it's kind of really balanced and with this color and how it radiates out from certain points. And I really learned this in painting surfboards. I realized that when you're painting a surfboard, if you painted something in the direct center, it made it fat. And if, you know, it's really hard to draw things in squares sometimes. You know, the placement of the center point was always very important. And I did it naturally just because I was looking at, okay, what looks better and what doesn't. But it does seem like people in the Renaissance, these artists were really playing with this idea of, okay, the underlying geometry. So keep going, honey. Okay. This is a neat one. I wonder if you could blow that up a little bit. Hit the little blow up key.
I don't think I can.
You know, you just take it for granted. Like, this is a movie scene out of The Shining, and this was a great scene where the little girl was riding her tricycle down the hallway. But that was that perspective, right? And it was just like going down, and the way that was done, it's such a memorable scene. But it goes back to reasons why you like something or don't like something. And whoever set up this shot, it was amazing. Keep going. I'm just trying to give examples of things. There again, this is more placement, and you kind of like look where everything is and how balanced this painting is. And even though this is line work, the flower of life or a grid pattern would fit perfectly on here to map out the underlying composition. All right, keep going. We're almost done. There again, this is, you know, a star pattern. What's neat about this is the measurements and rate, the 1.618, you know, growth ratio is recorded right here in this scale. And it's just kind of neat that, you know, phi is more like an average, and then Fibonacci is more like a ratio, where this starts to get into mathematics. So there's a lot of different mathematical formulas that get recorded or exposed within some of these geometries. Keep going. Is that it? Or is there like one more?
There we go.
Oh yeah, this is the Vesica Pisces, which is another one of those diagrams that, you know, has a lot of the different mathematical formulas, and it also has 1.618 in it. So, you know, we're not going to be talking about math today, but it's just interesting that it's all in there. And you tend to like these shapes and layouts due to the fact that it's what nature's already doing. All right, one more. And this just kind of gets into forced perspective. And so you see a lot of this in cartooning and whatnot. And what's great about it is this is what Damian Fulton's going to be talking about on Friday. So I kind of wanted to, you know, put that out there. And then also, you know, any of you draw characters, you kind of break them down into shapes. And so imagine this flower of life pattern is like this, you know, multiple perspective type of thing, where you know, the head might be in, you know, one scale, like in a certain place, and then the hands in another, and you can really exaggerate those features. And, you know, like I said, this is kind of like a mental process too, of trying to think of where things are in space, like forward or behind, or, you know, over here. And it just, like I said, it helped me put all this stuff together, so maybe it'll help you. I hope I can talk about it properly. All right, so anyway, sorry there were so many slides, but I thought that was necessary in talking about it. And so what I wanted to let's go to my little board here. I hope y'all like my little scene, set it up. This is another room in our gallery. When we switch to the other,
I did. It's just not showing up on your screen.
oh, it's not showing on my screen? Okay. Okay, so what I have here is like the scaling ratio that I want to do. So this circle I cut out is 12 inches. And so the next scale for me is going to be half of that. So that's going to be 6. So I'm going to do it in light blue. I'm using a compass, and I know some of you have already battled this this flower of life, so you kind of got the hang of it. For anybody who's new, you know, you can use a compass or you can use a cup. I do suggest you have a compass. It makes it easier. And I'm not going to be doing cups today, but a cup, you can still get it with the circle. So, you know, you imagine me having this as a point and doing circles with it. But I want to do it with this. So I got my center point, and what this is, it should be 6. Exactly. Make sure. So I'm measuring, it's a little bit above. So I want to measure 3. And it kind of goes back to also, like, I remember as a kid not thinking math was important, even though I was pretty good at math. But I'm using math every day, like whether I'm doing a big mural or, you know, mapping things out. I've learned to use so many different kinds of tools. And for any kids out there, art is math, whether you realize it or not. So I got this 12-inch circle, and now I'm making a 6-inch circle within it. Is that showing up really good?
Yeah, I can see it pretty well.
All
I
right.
mean, it's a little faint, but it's legible.
Okay. Maybe I should do it bigger. So at this point, I could do a circle anywhere I want, but I want to do one so it comes up here. So all I have to do is put this line or this tip of this pen anywhere on there, but I'm going to choose this line right here, and I'll put that tip there, and all I have to do is put the point on the other side, and then I can start doing it anywhere I want. And it should go all the way out to the outer edge. All right. So that's that scaling ratio that we're starting, where it's like half the scale. So then from there, all I have to do is put my point on each intersecting line. And I get my glasses down. And the more accurate you get this, the better. So it should cross this line, and it should cross the middle. And then it goes the outside. Okay, then I'm going to go the next intersecting point, and you just keep going. And so what's neat about this is, you know, you're number one, it's meditative. If a lot of y'all learned last week how meditative this is, and it seems to be, you know, unlocking something that you already knew. At least that's the way it was for me. Okay, so that's called the seed of life. So anyway, you see the scaling ratio, there's 2 circles across for this one circle. So now I'm going to switch pens, and I'm not going to go all the way out to a full flower of life because it would take too long. But now I want to do the next scale, and the next scale I'm going to do in red. So the next scale is going to be 3. So 3 and 3 make 6, 6 and 6 make 12. And what I want to do here is make sure I get 3. Let's measure it perfect. 1.5 is what I should have, because I want half of that. So you can see, you know, just being able to calculate this stuff, I mean, pretty basic. Let me make sure my pen's down. That looks pretty close. Some compasses are better than others, but that one seems pretty good. So we have 2 scales there, and now we're going to do another one. And let's just check this. I'm going to put that dot there, and I can go from this side and see if it's right on. It should be. It's just a little hair off. Let's see. That should be it. So here we go. And now we're going to do that same process. Put the dot there, put the dot there, put the dot there. There we go. And it should go to the outer line. So it's a little too big, but we'll let it fudge. You see how it's a little outside that circle? But this is the scaling ratio. And each one kind of nests within each other. And so when you draw geometries within there, you have all these different like points of reference that you can point to that gives you an idea of where in space, you know, because ultimately you're trying to create like a little 3D deal, make something look 3-dimensional. And this is kind of helps you do that. Right? And then I can go out to all these other intersecting lines. Sorry if my hand keeps getting in there. Now this is just, like I said, an exercise in like understanding. And so each one of these references, like the smaller you go, kind of give you an idea of something further back in space or smaller in scale. And then a bigger circle is, you know, closer in space or like a larger scale. And for me, I'm getting lost in this thing. It's easy to, let me just go one more round. If I go all the way out, let me just go real fast through these, or try to. And please, let's ask questions. So this is interactive. This is going to move, has been moving a little slower than most things.
Well, thanks to some of our good friends out there, Debbie McKee, Brittoni, and a couple other people, they're talking about Mercury in retrograde, and that's why we're having some tech issues. So
Is that it?
I appreciate that excuse. Thanks, everyone.
Is there more tech issues that I don't know about?
No, none other than what you already know about.
All right.
So a few things to note. We have a lot of new people on with us, and right now we're at exactly 100 people that are on with us right now, which is just amazing to me. And so I'm just going to shout out to a few people. I can't shout out to all 100, but Robbie from Nashville, which I think we're going to be going through Nashville sometime next month. We're going to be driving across country. Looking forward to that. Our good friend Brian Finn from Northern California, who's come here to our gallery a few times to paint with us. And of course, we have the Pryor family in Argentina, and the Cannon family is here drawing with us right now from San Clemente.
Yeah.
We have people from all over the world on right now, which is just amazing to me. A lot of people from Australia.
That's great. So you can see this is taking a little bit of focus for me to do this, but it's a really calming exercise. And you can see that it overlaps perfectly within each other. So I could do this another scale smaller and keep going. And what's neat about it, let me get these final ones out. Let me make sure it goes all the way out to the edge. This should go right to the edge. Look at that, perfect. And I'm sure, like, if there's any architects out there, they would probably know all about this, and you know, in their drafting and courses and things, they learned how to do a lot of cool stuff. And I'm probably not even hitting on.
So we had quite a few people that were on at the party last week when we introduced this. Shelly being one of them, who splurged on a good compass. So Shelly, I wonder if that's making a huge difference for you. Share in the chat and let us know.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Lisa, the artist, said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize Leonardo was into this." Yeah, I bet a lot of people didn't know that.
Well, this is just an exercise in you know, mathematics, and I think they really were using it to see how nature builds things, and trying to duplicate that, I think, in some of the big Gothic cathedrals and things like that. You know, this was for me, whenever I'm in nature, I start to see some of the patterns that I see in the geometries, and you know, it helps me draw flowers, it helps me draw leaves, helps me, you know, think of, like, how does nature do it, and you know, why do you like certain layouts versus others, you know, and what makes somebody beautiful. So you can see this just keeps going, and you know, I'm doing this right in front of you, just having fun. And if I can do it, you can do it. But this is really just the beginning.
I'm going to read a couple more comments, if I may.
Sure, please.
M.E. Stairmoner said, very cool. I do loose florals. I've never thought of the geometry behind it all. Lila said that the slides were fantastic and helpful. Thanks, Lila, for that feedback. Debbie McKee said you are in her favorite room. My favorite room too, Debbie. We've spent a lot of time in that room. Susan wants to know the name of the compass you're using. Are you using any particular brand there? Is that something you've had a long time? What is it?
It's a Evol, EVOL clip compass. Yeah, I like this one because it has this little clippy thing that I can actually put markers in. And that helps me.
And that was the other part of Susan's question, was give the name of the compass. She wants to get one that works with the Poscas. So that's perfect. And, you know, I know that at Dick Blick, if you go to, I think it's, go to Dick Blick's online store. They have a really good compass on there and it's very affordable. It's like $23 and it'll last you forever.
Yeah. So, you know, I have, you know, some of those same slides, and you can imagine from this, you know, you can find all these points that you see here in here. And here's I don't know if you can see this. This is a fractalized, what I just did, but I printed this out. This is another fractalized version. And if you can almost imagine, this is how space is constructed, that it's a like lattice structure of everything, that you can, as an artist, kind of imagine how things are in space. At least that's the way it's like all of a sudden like the Matrix. You're like, okay, I can see it, which is kind of neat. But you get these like perfect, you know, patterns. So like I was talking about like Hawaiian tapa, they have a lot of these triangle patterns. And let me get this painting right here. This is this is a print of one of my paintings, but you can see that pattern in there. And you can see how all these things are floating in space, but you know, you get that from, you know, just connecting these dots, and you can go to that dot to that dot, that dot to that dot, that dot to this dot. And all of a sudden you can see that structure, and then you can kind of do that same thing. But then you could also scale it up one so that whole thing comes one. There again, this is really an exercise in understanding. So yes, it's meditative, it's fun, but it's really kind of unlocking like how things are constructed. But then you can do it three-dimensionally. So like from this point, let's see, how do I do it on this one? It would go up. So you need another fractalized version like here, and that would kind of go like this. And the next thing you know is you have like a three-dimensional version of that triangle pattern. So also in here, there's a lot of like hexagons and octagons. And you see these patterns in nature like all the time. Let's see, what color should I use? Maybe orange. Let's find this in here. I mean, the basic one is in here, just connecting these like this, and that shape's in there, right? And then if you had the next scale down, you would be able to make like a three-dimensional version of this. It takes a little bit of practice. It seems like print one out. I thought I printed one out. No.
So here's, Lila wrote, I got lost as I went further out when practicing on which to connect points. It was difficult to find which points to keep continuing on with each outer layer.
Yeah, so basically you should have a seed of life, which is this in the middle of all of them. So I can see what you mean. Like this, you should have all the intersecting points have that. And yeah, you get kind of lost. It's really good if you just keep it going like around and put your tip of your compass on each intersecting point and keep going around. But this is where I wanted to show you how if the little 3-inch circle would be this one, then the 6-inch circle would be this one, and then the 12-inch circle would be this one, then this circle would be 24 inches. If you see that. And then, so then you start to understand like these like little scaling patterns, and then, you know, you can create all these like cool things. And then from there, you start just seeing how things, you know, really all this perspective is the same type of thing. It's like pointing up those points, but this is just one point perspective. It's coming from this point, whereas this could be multiple points. Same with this. All right. Let's do something else. Yeah, let's open it up to some questions. So, because I know this seems kind of abstract to a lot of people, so I kind of want to answer questions so people can. I don't know what they're thinking, so.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to work through. There's a lot of comments in here, so let's just move quickly through them. Debbie McKee wrote, hey, did anybody start with drawing the flower petals before the circles? That's how I got it. Not sure why. Any thoughts on that?
She drew the flower petals first. Well, I can see doing that. You know, just, you know, doing like little, instead of doing the whole circle, just doing the little flower petals. Now this could be done, you know, almost like, you know, somebody mentioned this last time, just having a, you know, like grid paper, but drawing squares is not as satisfying as drawing circles. And you can start to get the 3D nature of this, especially when you fractalize it or scale it, because then it starts looking deep and bigger. And did I do it on this? Yeah, you can kind of see it on this circle. Can you go to this camera?
Yep.
And,
yep, we're there.
Okay, so, but you can see how I have it fractalized here. And so it almost looks like stained glass or something, or like crystals. And this is like the chakras and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was cool. But this is a great example of how finding this point, like if I would put this in the center, it would have made the board look fat and not right. So I put this, you know, shape up here, and then it just allowed it to pull everything up and created a nice shape and pattern. And, you know, that was something I did because I know that that makes the surfboard look better. Same with this. That's why this one is bigger. This is a saucehedron, and you know, then put all the platonic solids down there. And so that kind of, you know, brings up a neat thing is these shapes, the platonic solids, they all kind of, they all fit within a circle and 3-dimensionally. So not just a circle, but like a sphere. And they all can fit within each other as well. And it seems like those shapes are like kind of like the structure of you know, different materials. And for me, it just was like blowing my mind learning about physics and stuff and trying to like just kind of visualize how things are built. And yeah, it just made me want to learn more and more and more. And so that's what all this art was about for me. So most of you are used to my super surreal, whimsical art, which is fun. But now with this arm behind it, makes it that much more satisfying for me as an artist. I feel like I instead of just creating something and having somebody like it, I'm thrilled at the fact is I know why they like it. because I include some of the geometries, I include some of the composition that I learned from this, and also some of the, like the golden ratio 1.618, and the golden rectangle, and all these mathematics that I didn't think were that important, but they are. So I wonder if Damien's going to hit on this on our lesson with drawing. He's mainly going to focus on the figure, and so all these proportions and numbers come up in drawing the figure as well. I didn't have the fortune to go to art school or any school, so I've only learned about that stuff later in life, but I just find that very interesting, that with knowing those proportions and how the body's constructed, and then you can do these forced perspectives where it's like, things are coming at you. And then, he worked for Disney and things, so he learned how to exaggerate them even more. And that's how you're able to have cartoons come to life. And even in your drawings, be able to, give a character, either he looks like all bowed up and mean, or he looks, sad, and knowing all those things, and something about this meditative type of exercise kind of opens you up to notice more things, if that makes sense to people. As artists, I think we already notice a lot, but when you start seeing how things are constructed or doing some of these exercises, then you start to really notice like little subtleties in leaves and flowers. And I really notice a lot of architecture, things like ceramic tiles, like all of a sudden I'll see these like cool patterns. Debbie, I know you did fabric designs. When I started learning about this, it was like, wow, I wish I knew this when I was designing fabric, because you're doing all these repeats and these half drop repeats, and you're trying to make it so it's not so obvious. And so any of you that look up MC Escher, he was a master at that type of stuff. But there was an underground pattern, mathematical pattern under his paintings that allowed him to make these real fantastical illustrations.
So a lot of people want to share. Why don't we're going to share a couple, and then we'll come back to you and answer a couple more questions, and we'll kind of bounce back and forth. So let's go to Jody Trujillo. Jody, how are you, Jody? Hi.
How are you guys?
Good.
Hey, Jody, how are you?
Show us what you're doing today.
So I'm just working on a smaller piece so I can just focus on it more. I tend to get lost when I have a bigger piece in front of me. So I just.
Oh, yeah. And so, Jody, do you feel that this is helping you with like design elements and just what's your?
It's funny because I loved geometry, and that was my favorite math class. Algebra, I can't understand, but geometry was the easiest for me. And I think because, I worked in shapes.
Yeah.
And when I teach art, I teach in shapes. When I do a mural, I break it down in shapes. So this is really cool. And I used to think this was like doodling. This is what I call doodling. I have tons of journal pages doing this kind of repetitive shapes.
Yeah.
And so this is really cool, very calming, gets my focus in the right mindset when I want to create a piece. So
right. Great. Yeah, that was me too. Like whenever I'm drawing like a character or something, I start out with shapes. And I think I had a book on like cartooning or something as a kid, and that's how they did it. And so I broke everything down into shapes and then started mapping it out like a little, like a little grid. And I just think that's a good way to think about it.
So Lisa, the artist, wanted to know, can you recommend resources if I want to learn more about sacred geometry? And I know you have a resource, and it's somebody that I want to get on as a guest one day.
Oh yeah. So I took a class on sacred geometry with a guy named Randall Carlson, and he's a architect. and he has a thing called, I think it's Sacred Geometry International, and you can take a course. And it's just really neat. It just really shows you how to build things. It's more architectural type of stuff, not necessarily architecture, but like it was like the fundamentals of why some of these shapes and proportions are important. I can't teach it like Randall. I'd probably have to brush up on his class, but it was really good. So you can look up Randall. He's also a geologist and architect. So
Lysandra from Melbourne said, this is so interesting. Thanks. And she wrote, you mentioned there were specific names for the different shapes that are created. What is the resource that you can recommend? And you know what? There's another resource. You can go to YouTube, and there's a guy that makes these amazing YouTube videos with cartoons. It's called Spirit Science. And he makes a ton of videos, but I know he has one all about sacred geometry.
Yeah, I don't know if that one is good. I mean, there's definitely, you just have to look it up and find one that you like. I know there's one of the physics program I did was called the Resonant Science Foundation, and so that was pretty cool. They have a program that talks about this, and they have a couple different scientists that study like biology. One is studying sound and how they tie these things all together, and so it's a pretty interesting resource. Or you can just like them on Instagram and Facebook, and you can see their posts and see if you like it. It's not so much art based. I'm kind of taking what I'm learning because I was studying physics for myself. And then this came out of it, and I kind of applied it to my art. So, you just got to find what's right for you, but there's plenty of resources online. Just find the right one.
Okay, we're going to go to the Pryor families in just a moment. So you Pryors, get ready with your art to show us. But before we do, Nicole Guyett, our good friend Nicole from Tennessee, she wants to know the name of the compass. And so I was going to ask Shelly, if you would share in the chat which compass you bought, because a lot of people are asking that question, and it sounds like you're happy with it. So would you just share in the chat which one you bought and where you bought it? That would be really helpful. Okay, we're going to go to Cefe in Argentina.
Hi, my second order.
How are you?
Very good.
Good. Show us what you're working on.
I was working from last class on the holy crap, but I thought it wouldn't go pretty good, so I started this.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. That's gorgeous.
That's looking good, Cefe. Are you using a compass or freehand?
No, compass.
A good compass. Good.
Good. Awesome.
You kids are going to be doing some awesome presentations in your school this year.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go check out your sister Andina. Andina, if you're ready. Hi.
Hey, Andina.
Show us your work.
I did this. And like here's the flower of life. And
Yeah.
there's another one. And then here's like a dog surfing.
A dog surfing. That's great.
Love it. Love
Good
it.
job, Andina.
And that's it.
That's it. All right, we're going to go to your brother.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, now we're going to go to Santino, the older brother.
I can't wait to see what Santino is doing.
I know. Let's see. Here we go. Santino, what's up? Whoa.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
So it's like I did like 3 sizes. So I have like a bigger one, middle one, and small one.
Yeah. And so Santino, do you think that's helping you understand like space and composition and see how, you know, things are connected. So you can take that into thinking about math and thinking about chemistry and biology, how things are packed together, you know, like almost like a underground or under framework of how everything's built.
Yeah, I have a book around here in my room about math and all this like things. And it's
Yeah.
super cool. Like I really like it. And let me show you something. So I did something different here. So
Oh, wow.
I tried like mixing them more than what I usually do.
Yeah, that looks good.
And then I'm gonna do like mountains here, like Tahipu Mountains.
Yeah.
And then I might like strain it out this board like down a bit.
Yeah.
Because the angle not right.
It's looking good though. That's deep in the barrel. That's really good. I got to finish mine too. So I'm going to do a time lapse of mine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Good job, Santino.
Yeah, one more month of you priors painting, you're going to be able to have like
Wait,
a
I
big
have a question before you take me
Sure.
out. When are we gonna do like a surfboard paint
A
party?
whole surfboard?
Paint, yeah. I have one just with the top painted. I want to paint the rest.
Okay. So, well, I'm trying to get some of the pro surfers in here to paint with us. And it's whenever they can, I got to wait for the waves to go flat. Okay.
It's hard getting, it's like getting a bunch of cats together in a room. It just, you know, it's not easy, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. All right, let's go over to Trudy Timmerman. Trudy, get your art ready and show us what you're working on. Hi.
Hi, how you going? Yeah, I did this one from, can you see? I'm not sure if you can see.
I can't see anything, honey.
Oh, you can't? I don't know why. I can.
Do I?
So Trudy, have you drawn the Flower of Life before? Do you feel it's helping?
Oh, absolutely. I've never drawn it before. I've been into like, I knew spirals was and everything, but I didn't realize, yeah, this was, so I've been doing nothing but learning about it ever since I've watched, like you, yeah, shown how to do it. It's a lot harder than what you think. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, no, I can see you now. You finally popped up. It looks great.
And I did, just with the Poscas, the skull one.
Oh, that is so good.
That's amazing.
It's called like a gypsy with a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wide wave and mandala sun type of thing. My grandson drew that a little bit, so I turned it into he's 1 year old, so I turned that into a dream catcher, so it's a little bit special.
Perfect. That's great.
And just playing around with the Poscas. I was gonna do the Flower of the Life on the back of that one, but it's a bit hard to pick. Yeah, so I just did a
I
border.
love that. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, so that's a really good example of, you know, trying to get that placement and, you know, the way you offset the Buddha it makes it look really cool, you know?
Yeah. So I'm really excited to do more Flower of Life. I'm just blown away by it and
good.
learning more. I'm going to learn more about it. So thanks heaps for sharing.
Just another tool in your toolbox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read what the Van Wyen family wrote. In the dance world, movement theorist Rudolf Laban studied geometries. In addition to choreographing dance, he was hired by factories to analyze assembly line movement and increase efficiency. That's a cool little fact.
Yeah, it is a cool fact because, you know, when you think about your body, I don't know if you guys can see me, but you know, your body moves in these certain ways, and that whole Fibonacci pattern is like in your hand and the way your body moves. So it's a real important, you know, I think it was Phil Roberts that was showing me how my hand, you know, moves like this, my elbow moves like this, my arm moves like this. And so the way we draw is tied into this same type of scalar versions of everything. And you start to notice, you know, how you do different things. You draw smaller circles like this, bigger circles like this. And in order to get good lines, you have to move your whole body. So it kind of goes back to like what Maria was just quoting with the dance. Or if I'm doing something like spraying a surfboard with clear, I do it real robotic, you know. And there again, this exercise is a perception in paying attention. It's almost being hyper aware. So by doing these exercises, you become hyper aware to everything around you, and you notice things that you didn't used to notice. And then that helps you with, you know, something that's more beautiful, or a way that's beautiful. And for me, it's almost maddening. It's made me like investigate every little thing. Like I'll see a cool leaf and I'm just like, oh, look at this leaf. I never, you know, and I'm just kind of freaking out on like every little snail shell and rock and, you know, plant, animal. So anyway.
So we have just a few more minutes, and just really, I don't know if this, I don't know if you can answer this question quickly, but see if you can. Kimball wrote, regarding the spiritual aspect of sacred geometry, is it an intuitive creation regarding the design? In other words, does the geometry inform the outcome of the art, or do you fit the geometry into what you want to create? I love the outcome regardless of the process, just curious.
I think that the exercise of, I mean, art is an articulation. Everything's kind of like our imagination articulating what we see. And by learning the fundamentals of geometry and mathematics, and then as an artist, learning the fundamentals of geometry and mathematics, it leads to something beautiful, which is that it's like divine design. It makes you, I mean, whoever created this, a God or whatever that created everything, it's so perfect and it's so beautiful. And how lucky are we to live in this world where like all these, you know, beautiful things are at our fingertips. I mean, it's all around us. I mean, everything, the way the clouds move, to the way water moves, to snowflakes, to flowers, to, you know, a beautiful person. I mean, you know, they mentioned dance before. How beautiful are like just people's bodies. You know, some of the sculptors that have created these amazing sculptures of, you know, like an athlete in their prime, in their perfect shape. It just, to me, it just leads to a thankfulness of this mechanism that's working throughout the world, creating all these beautiful things, and it leads to divine design. And it seems like everything we see is like this creation. And that's what we are. I mean, we're creators. As artists, we're creating beautiful things, or things to think about, or things to articulate, or, you know, think about, and just, I don't know if that answers the question, but for me, it does seem like it unlocks something that allows you to expand upon it. And
Jen F. wrote, thanks to Maria and Drew for helping me open my eyes to art again. I missed it and didn't realize how much I love it. It's so relaxing.
Yeah.
That makes me really happy to hear that.
Yeah. And I mean, and there again, I mean, I dive into the science and physics part, like, and I do listen to a lot of the spiritual stuff that comes around it too. It's tied into every religion that's out there, so it's not like a singular religion type of thing, but it seems like they all used portions of this to in their thinking, and it seems to be very old. So in my travels to some of the ancient sites, whether it be in you know, Egypt or Peru or Mexico, you know, I see versions of this, and it was important to them, so maybe it should be important to us.
A few people were asking in the chat about the book that Santino was referring to, and he wrote in the chat, the book is called Math in Minutes.
Yeah.
Someone else asked what books you might have read that got you interested in physics.
You know, I started wanting to learn about physics due to waves. Waves are really beautiful to me, and I was studying weather. And so I was seeing all the patterns in the water of how things move. So, you know, everything's happening with energy, and it just so happens with the ocean, you can actually see that transference of energy in waves. And so when I look at that, it's almost like the heartbeat of the planet. And so it got me very interested in, you know, that energy transference and how everything was moving through different medias. So water, air, land, you know, space itself, how the sun is transferring energy to the earth and whatnot. So that's how I got into it. Great resources are the great Buckminster Fuller. He's an amazing, you just look up Bucky and you'll see all kind of amazing ideas and how he expanded upon all kinds of concepts just through these types of thinking. Nassim Harriman, he's a theoretical physicist. He uses this to try to imagine what space looks like. And he believes that everything's connected via some field of energy. So that gets into prana and, you know, the ether and that type of thing. So there's a lot of theories and things to explore with these types of ideas. It's kind of applied to anything, scales and music and why certain things go together and other things don't.
Debbie wrote that crystals all grow in the sacred geometry shapes as well.
Yeah.
And they grow in those shapes naturally.
Yeah, and you really see it in like the cracking patterns of like a dry lake bed, or, you know, you see it just naturally. It kind of does these weird things. And I mean, it's just interesting to me, and it's worth pursuing. And nowhere in nature do you see these like perfections that, you know, we're drawing here. It's always like trying for perfection. So it's like nature is striving for perfection, and it never quite gets there. But it's really fun to try to make it, but don't be so obsessed that it's got to be perfect.
Yeah, this is kind of,
yeah.
This actually grew in the ground in Arkansas. So I just want to say we didn't get to everybody that wanted to share, but that just means you have to come back.
Yeah.
You have to come back. Friday, we have something so awesome. Friday is going to be very educational with Damian Fulton, and we'll send emails out and you'll get a little more information about that.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask, you know, I just have this thought because so many people are interested in getting better at drawing the flower of life and drawing sacred geometry. If you would like to do this again and learn more about it, just type in the chat, yes, we'd love to do this again. And that gives us an idea of the level of interest. So let us know. Yeah,
so, you know, we're going to try to put together some programs that are really step-by-step. It's hard to do that with such a short amount of time and trying to make this interactive. So when we first started doing these Zoom calls, we really wanted it interactive so we could all connect. Now I think we're going to try to do something that's more step-by-step that you can watch on your own, and then we can maybe have a meetup and talk about it. And as far as this Friday goes, this Friday is not going to be like last Friday. Last Friday was more fun and inspirational. This
Well,
Friday,
last Friday was like a real party with music.
yeah,
This Friday will still be fun,
yeah, it's still
but
being-
educational.
Yeah, so this Friday, we're very lucky to have Damien come in, and it's going to be more about, giving your drawing attitude and specifically figures. So he's going to go into figure drawing and character drawing. Like I said, he worked for Disney. He's a professional illustrator.
And he's also the creator of
Radical
Rick, which is a really popular
Well,
character.
he did that a long time ago, and it's still popular. But
Yeah, it's really popular.
But if you like to draw like characters and things like that, I think he's going to show us a lot of tricks and maybe hopefully quick ways to do things. And maybe some of this will come into it, drawing that forced perspective of thinking of one scale that is close up and the next scale is further back, and what that looks like. And so that is like a spatial difference, which that's kind of what I see in the Flower of Life.
So thank you all for being here with us.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much. You give us a reason to, you give us a way to do something really fun where we bring this community together, and it makes us so happy to do it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you Friday, and somebody's going to win this, and we will contact you if you want it. We will email you or send you an Instagram
I wish
message.
everybody could win.
Eventually everybody will. Just
Yeah,
keep coming back. Keep coming back.
All
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.